He always takes me by surprise. I'm gonna try and share my screen. The screen. Hold on. Where's it going? Oh. We'll get there eventually. Hi, everyone. I am Adriana Consorte-McCrea, and I chair this wonderful group. Is the IUCN SSC Conservation Translocation Specialist Group, Human-Wildlife Interactions Working Group. So we are a part, we are a combination of members of IUCN, practitioners, researchers, students interested in human dimensions of conservation translocations. And as a community of practice, we aim to bring people together to discuss key issues and try and find solutions. We share resources. We have published guidelines, and we are working on further guidelines to be the companions of the IUCN Conservation Translocation Guidelines. And we run these discussion events. And this is the second talk of a series of 2 we run this year around inclusivity in conservation translocation practice. The first one was just a few weeks ago. And today we have Monica Engel, who is part of our group. And Monica will be talking about Indigenous co-management-led research. I've shared some information about the group, some of our links, and also the links to our recordings. This event, as you see, is being recorded as well, and we'll share the link within a week. And you please feel free to share with other people who might not be able to attend today. So the idea is to have a presentation, and Monica will introduce herself and her work in a moment, followed by a discussion where we hope people will participate as much as possible and bring in examples from their experience, their field work or their research, and have an open discussion, really. This is a forum for discussion. So I'll certainly emphatically invite you to take part. Okay, so I stop sharing my screen now. And we're gonna keep letting people in, but I'll pass word to Monica. And Monica, you're very welcome. It's very nice that you accepted to talk about this very important issue. And I hope you can share your screen with us. Yeah. and start to talk.
I hope we can share my screen too. Thank you, Adriana. Thank you, everybody, to make the time to be on this call live today. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule from last week to this week, so I apologize for that. But I'm glad we made it work and we are here today. As Adriana mentioned, it's meant to be a space for discussion and conversation and not just a presentation and a talk from my side. So I will try to do things a little bit different. And I guess I will start just inviting those who can turn on their cameras to turn on their cameras so we can see each other and make this virtual environment a little bit more personal. And I found that also helps us to talk more and to share more when we can see ourselves in our body language. So if you're not in a weird place or in pajamas, I would invite you to open up your camera and show your face if you can. And if you cannot, that's okay. We can continue. So I know we are part of the group with, thank you for those for turning on the cameras. We're part of the group of the translocation, and we talked about human dimensions of wildlife and interactions within this larger umbrella of translocation. My talk here today won't be specifically about translocation and examples of that, but it affects the work we do here if there is a case where some species of wildlife, fishery, or plant will be translocated in or out of the area that I'm going to talk more about and explain. So it's part of our mandate to engage with people in those situations as well. But the focus here, as the title of my talk says clearly, is about Indigenous co-management-led research and the implications of that for co-management and conservation more generally, more broadly. So I guess my goal is to talk about our example, and then from your side to really see the points where you can make some connections and apply your own work, or even see of how the way we are doing our job here, in the way we're conducting our work and integrating Indigenous knowledge and traditional Western scientific knowledge into co-management and decision-making can be used or applied or help to reframe the way other kinds of work are done and conducted related to translocation, for example. So it's more like this, here's an example, and then see how it can fit in your own day-to-day or work or projects. So I will start sharing my screen and get this going. So hopefully everything will work fine. And I do want to open Zoom so we could see, but that's okay. I think I can't see this, so the faces on my other side. All right. So as I mentioned, the goal here is to talk about Indigenous co-management-led research and what does that mean. My name is Monica Engel, and I'm the director of the Torngat Wildlife Plants and Fisheries Secretariat located in Happy Valley Goose Bay in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, Eastern Canada. So I would start with our land claim acknowledgement, just acknowledging that I'm calling today from the ancestral land of the Innu and Inuit of Nunatsiavut. And this is not just an exercise and something that's being done in more and more in the Canadian context, but it's a form of acknowledging the history of the place and in the current circumstances of the place where we are. And this picture was taken, I was going to be showing lots of pictures of our land here. So this is from the Torngat Mountains. It's a national park located in the northern part of Labrador, which is also part of the Nunatsiavut territory. So this is more or less where I am currently located in a place called Happy Valley Goose Bay. And I chose to use this map. I was in a conference last month, and I saw this presentation where they showed a map, and they made it very clear that they didn't want to show a map with lines, but just a map of the place. So I chose Google Maps to show where I am calling from, and I hope you can identify the place. There is no scale here or anything, but this is this whole area here is the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So Labrador is the mainland, and Newfoundland is the island portion of the province. And all this area here is the ancestral land of the Inuit, and this here of Inuit in Innu. So if you're here on our first talk with Sean, she talked about positionality and what we bring to the table, and what our biases are in the work we do and the choices we make on how we conduct the work and how we come up with research questions, for example, or the choice of methodologies or decisions that we make. So just a quick overview or statement of my own positionality and who I am in a nutshell. I'm not really sure. I don't know myself enough to just, and I think this is a quest we all have in our lives, right? To know ourselves. But I'm calling from, I'm sitting here in Labrador. I've been in Canada for 10 years. I'm originally from southern Brazil. I have a degree in biology, and I did my master's and PhD and postdoc in geography here in human dimensions of wildlife and human dimensions of natural resources. So for the last about 12 years, I've been working in this field of human wildlife, fisheries and natural resources interactions and management and conservation, working in different places, in different regions of the world, and with different groups and organizations and communities. I'm a woman. I'm the second child of a family who have their roots based on different Europeans that moved to southern Brazil in the late 1800s. So part of my ancestral heritage is German, and the other half is a mix of Portuguese, French, and Spanish. And I grew up in a place which is known, it's like a German colony kind of environment. And so I grew up in that environment culturally and geographically. But since I can remember, I always I never thought of myself and in that place as a place that it was just where I would be. I always wanted and see the world more broadly, and I think that's what drove me to different places and different countries and try different experiences in life and professionally, always combining the goals for my the things I wanted to work on and study and learn, with a sense of there was so much more to explore and understand and see, and always driven by a curiosity to see how people relate to the natural environment. So those are the biases that I bring to my work and to this presentation. And I'm not saying bias in a bad way, but like this is who I am, and we cannot deny that we all have our own beliefs and values that we bring to the conversations. But here for this presentation, I'm also representing the Secretariat, because I'm going to be presenting the work we do through the Secretariat. So I also bring this other position or positionality into my talk here today. So with that, I will invite you all. I will stop sharing my screen. Our group is not big, so I really would appreciate if we can start our conversations now instead of just waiting for the end. And if we could go around our virtual room here, and if you can just, introduce yourselves, say where you are and something about your positionality that makes you who you are. Does anyone wants to start?
Well, I think I can do that. Just keep the ball rolling. I define myself as a conservation biologist, but I also, like Monica, I'm from Brazil. I'm from a different part of Brazil, from São Paulo, and I have an Italian family as well as Brazilian family. So my heritage is also half European from Italy, and the other a mix of Black and probably Indigenous somewhere. And I studied biological sciences, and then I did a master's in conservation biology and a PhD in ecology. But I think early, when I was doing my master's, I started working with zoos and how zoos can help reintroduction from very early is something that I fell in love with, because a way of restoring animals to their natural habitat. But I didn't study biology to work with people. But this is something that was always recurring, the fact that you actually need to understand people within the context of conservation more. So I ended up doing my PhD on that, on people's attitudes towards the maned wolf. And I'm here chairing this group because I think my care for the human-wildlife interactions is just grown and is something that guides very much my practice today. We've got Shalu probably next.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hello.
So myself Shalu Misaria. I am from India, and currently it is 8:49 here. So yeah, I'm cooking. Parallelly, I'm also attending this meeting here. Well, I have completed my master's in zoology, and I have 7 years of research experience. I have worked on charismatic species like tigers, and I have worked on unappreciated species like bears. I have done education outreach programs in tribal areas, and currently I am working as senior research fellow in Central Zoo Authority here in India, New Delhi. And I am looking after I'm doing evaluations of zoo. I am also looking after the conservation breeding of different endangered species. So yeah, that is that is me. Hi, hello everyone.
Hello.
Thank you.
Very nice to meet you, Shalu. And who would like to be next? People, please don't be shy. We would like to hear from everyone. Just an introduction to help place you within your practice and help us take the discussion forward.
Hello.
Hello.
I can go. I go by Koh, and I'm based in Malaysia. I'm born in Malaysia, but my ancestors are from China, and that's the diversity in Malaysia. I have identity problem, like, am I Chinese or am I Malaysian? And then when I encounter indigenous people in Malaysia, and where do I place myself between my origin, like my ancestral, and the indigenous people here in Malaysia. And I have a degree in zoology. I'm trying to do a master, but it's not going anywhere yet. I have some experience with rescue and rehabilitation gibbons in Malaysia. And now I work with a coalition, a network called Asia for Animals, and under two different working groups, macaque working groups, which Sean Water is familiar with, and a Sanctuaries and Rescue Center working group. So I deal with macaque welfare and conservation issues, and with the Sanctuaries and Rescue Centers, I'm trying to streamline from rescue, confiscation of wild animals into sanctuaries, either sanctuaries or rescue centers. And if in rescue centers, rehabilitate and release the animals back to their area, the area of their native range or their origin. And I'm very interested in this session because when we release animals, especially macaques, species that are considered as pest species in some cultures or some provinces, we have to work with the local people to get their consent and get their perceptions of the NGOs doing this kind of work or their relationship with the animals there and their acceptance of animals being released there and so on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
If you can't, please just say okay, good. Thanks, Monica.
Well,
hi.
welcome, Kudzai. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, Adriana. Thanks for the invite. I couldn't miss it. Thanks, everyone. My name is Kudzai. I am based in Africa, Zimbabwean, but now I'm based in South Africa. I'm finishing my PhD there. I work for the School of Wildlife Conservation, which is at the African International University, and I'm also a PhD candidate at the University of the Western Cape. My work mainly within the human-wildlife interaction space started a while back when I was interning, and then when I also worked with the managing authority, which manages the wildlife in Zimbabwe, which is called the Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority. And from there onwards, that's how I started understanding how the interactions work and some of the critical nuances that are important when it comes to human-wildlife interactions. And then, so from then, I was working closer to communities, but now I've moved slightly away from communities in a space where now I work within the wildlife economy space, where we try to unlock value for communities. So not directly with communities, but more of like how can we unlock or make sure that all conservation initiatives have a benefit communities in one way or the other. So I'm in the wildlife economy space, and most of our, like I said, most of the initiatives are trying to make sure that be it whichever initiatives, be it like if there are carbon offsets, if it's wildlife hunting, but we try to make sure that we advocate that our communities also are involved within that space. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I can go next.
Yeah.
My name's Aoife. I'm Irish, but I was raised in the United States. And I'm currently based in Georgia at the University of Georgia, where I'm doing my PhD in anthropology and integrative conservation. And my dissertation is based in the Colombian Amazon, where I work with a variety of local communities to study how their traditional ecological knowledge is changing in response to conservation policies, ecotourism, entrance to the global market economy, things like that. And in my abundant free time as a PhD student, I also help lead study abroads in my home country of Ireland, where I teach American students about Irish botany and geography.
Cool. Thank you. Anybody else? So we have Alison in the chat sharing that yeah, the camera is not working, but she's a research associate at Newcastle University in the UK and have worked on issues around wildlife trade and trafficking from criminological perspectives, and ended up focusing her PhD on attitudes toward commercially exploited fish and marine wildlife conservation, currently working on policy implementation challenges for the global biodiversity framework. Thank you, Alison. And we have Marina. She's Spanish, born and raised in the Netherlands, now based in the UK, have a BC bachelor's degree in zoology, master's in environmental policy, and expertise lies in sacred natural sites. That's interesting. linking conservation with sacred traditional ecological knowledge and protected areas. Thank you, Marina. Did we miss somebody that would like to just quickly share where you are?
We have another couple of people. Would you like to share? We've got Fabrice and Dev, maybe. If you're feeling too shy, we might forgive you and hope you talk later.
You can also just use the chat if you just want to say something there. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen for the sake of time, and I'm sure we're going to have much more to talk. So I appreciate you just opening up and sharing a little bit of who you are and where you are, and we can make this conversation a little bit more dynamic. Let's do this again. So this talk is about co-management and co-management-led research and Indigenous co-management-led research. But just let's start with one of the many definitions of co-management. And this is a definition that's from Canada and in this context, and it might change depending on where you are in the different countries. I know that many years ago when I was still doing my a degree in biology in Brazil, I used co-management, but the definition there was a little bit different than this one. But here, co-management has come to mean this institutional arrangement. So it's more like a political mechanism where different governments and Aboriginal entities, Indigenous entities, and sometimes other groups in other parts, they come into developing those formal agreements with a specific sets of rights, powers, and obligations of different levels of governance, with reference to management and allocation of resources. And here is natural resources, and fisheries and wildlife in a particular area of crown lands and water. So as a political mechanism, those co-management, it also means the development of co-management boards in most cases, and they are used to decentralize resource management, basically, and decentralize decision-making. So it's a more inclusive way to make decisions in relation to fisheries, wildlife, plants, and other natural resources, including the goal here, one of the main aspects of co-management, specifically on this context here, is to integrate Indigenous knowledge and views into co-management. So there are, as I said, different definitions, but there are some common themes among all those definitions. And one of them is power sharing and shared governance. So all the decisions are made with representatives of different levels of government, different governments. In our case here would be provincial government, federal government, and as you see in the coming slides, the Nunatsiavut government, which is our Indigenous government body. Another common theme among those definitions is the collaboration and partnership. So all those elements that are part of this idea of an approach of co-management, joint monitoring, research, and decision-making with different perspectives. So the braiding of different knowledges, not just traditional ecological knowledge, we call it here Indigenous knowledge and Inuit knowledge with Western science, shared goals in space, and again, highlighting the use of different knowledge systems and perspectives. Another key characteristic is working towards sustainability, so the sustainable use of resources, and that means ecological, social, cultural, and economic sustainability and continuity of resources, and the cultural aspect of the use of those resources in the long term. It also involves adaptive management, and it integrates the knowledge and perspectives and experiences and into the decision making and discussions of stakeholders and right holders. So engaging all those different groups into the planning of what is to be researched, for example, and into recommendations for management and allocation of resources, for instance. So more specific to the Torngat Secretariat here and how it came to be in the context of co-management. So this is a process that started a few decades ago. In 1977, a land claim was submitted from the Inuit Association here in Labrador, and almost, well, in 2005, a long time after the land claim agreement was signed. With the sign of the land claim agreement, the Nunatsiavut government was created. This is first logo here, which is the Indigenous government. And with that, two co-management boards were created to manage, to co-manage fisheries, plants, and wildlife in Nunatsiavut, which is this area. If we look at the map here, the yellow and blue, so the blue represents the water and the areas in the marine areas. And I hope you can see the map in your screen. So this is basically the northern coast of Labrador on this eastern Canada. This area is Nunatsiavut according to the land claim agreement. So these two co-management boards were created as part of this agreement in 2005. With those two boards, the Torngat Secretariat was created. So we are this agency, and we are in the process of becoming a nonprofit in terms of for the regulation of things. But our work is to provide mainly three areas that we work with. The first one is the research aspect. And then when I say research, try to think of all the different knowledges that are integrated into the research. So Western science and Inuit knowledge. And we are also responsible for the administration and operational aspects of those two co-management boards. So our work is to gather the information needed for the boards to make decisions and recommendations for the three levels of government. When it comes to the fishery, it typically goes to DFO, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, that at the federal level. And then when it comes to allocation of hunting licenses, for instance, for certain species, so everything is very species specific, then we make recommendations for the ministry in the Nunatsiavut or at the provincial level. There are several other aspects of details of our mandate and what's on the land claim agreement and the historical part that I would skip for this presentation, but you can reach out to me and I can share more information about that if you're interested. But here, the goal is to show that all the work we do is Indigenous-led, because it's from Nunatsiavut, for Nunatsiavut area and communities and people, from the needs that are identified in the area. And it's co-management led, because all the research and all the work that's done is to inform co-management decisions. So it's not just, it's different from an academic institution, or it's different from just research for the sake of research. All the work that is done is for a specific reason, that it's either in our mandate or, and when I say in our mandate, it's on the land claim agreement, or it's because of another issue that's arising, and then that needs some kind of attention in relation to, for example, black bears are expanding their range, and that they've been seeing more black bears in the area. So let's say that's an issue that was raised, and people are talking more about black bears getting close to communities, and now it's becoming a source of concern. Then to know that for sure, and to use that in a sense of planning for conservation or management recommendations, we're going to need both a biological and ecological research, a survey, and analysis of where they are, population dynamics, but we're also going to need to know what people were seeing on the land and their experiences with black bears. So combining the natural and the social sciences, it's the main part of the work we do here. So our organization here is funded because it emerged from this land claim agreement. It's funded by the 3 governments. So we have a third equally divided, 33%, 33.333% from each government. And we also have external funding that we sometimes apply depending on the projects and the nature of the work we are doing. So this is just like the Secretariat in a very summarized way on how it came to be. So we've been working for almost 20 years now. So in the terms, I think I just mentioned that the 2 different co-management boards. So our work is to inform those boards in relation to harvest quotas and conservation and management measures for wildlife plants and the habitat of different species in the Labrador Inuit settlement area. So that area that I showed in this map here before. So this is the territory in which we work, but we have collaborations with people outside and organizations outside this core area. And I will talk a little bit more about that when I show examples from the work we do with caribou and polar bears, and our collaborations with partners on the Quebec side of the border in Nunavik. So our vision, the vision of the Secretariat, is healthy ecosystems and communities with shared stewardship of wildlife, plants, and fisheries in Nunatsiavut in this area. So I'm gonna walk us through some examples of the work we do, thinking that those are the core projects that we have at this moment. But as the nature of co-management, as in the nature of co-management, it's all very adaptable. So it really depends on the demand we see from communities along the coast, from Nunatsiavut government itself, and from the need and from the needs that emerge when sometimes we are working with one specific issue or species, and then from that work something else emerges. So over the last 20 years, we've been carrying several different projects, but those are kind of our lead core projects that I want to talk to you about. So the first one is on the caribou herd, and specifically on the caribou herd from the Torngat Mountains. So that area that I mentioned, it's on the northern part of Labrador, of Nunatsiavut here. So in this case here, and I'm not going to go into details of results, for example, or any of them. I just want to show how we are combining and braiding those different knowledge systems to make recommendations that are based on what the biologists are seeing on the field and what the Inuit communities are seeing when they're out on the land. So this is, since 2013, we've been carrying on a caribou survey in the area, which is really, it's a hard survey to conduct, as you can see in this picture. So it's done later in winter. so late February, beginning of March. It usually takes 2 or 3 weeks flying on a helicopter in that area on transects, like in this map here from 2017, and basically spotting herds of caribou, taking pictures of them, and to identify male, female, calf, and then do the whole survey of the area to monitor the population. So the population it declined drastically over the last few decades, but since our survey started in 2013, we are seeing the numbers going up. And something that I didn't mention before, but in Nunatsiavut, all the Inuit people, they have their rights to hunt without a license, and the rights to fish without a license. If we have people coming from outside into the area, then license are needed. So this is one way we are doing the work with the caribou, looking at population dynamics and surveying and looking at numbers, if the numbers are going up or down over the years, so we can better control areas for hunting and harvesting of caribou, which is a very important species for Inuit, for not just for food, but for cultural aspects as well. And it's a way to connect people with the land. But as I mentioned, we braid those different ways to understand the full picture of, in this case, caribou on the land, and make decisions of harvesting or not harvesting, and allocation, and certain other conservation and management efforts that should be directed to that specific herd. So in this example here, and I left, there's the link for the website. This is a 3 years, 4 years project that was conducted doing interviews with communities, not only in Nunatsiavut, but on the other side of the border, on the Quebec side, on people in caribou, and the relationship people have with caribou on the land, and the importance of caribou for people. So I'm gonna share with you a trailer of a documentary that was made as part of this research. To the documentary, there's a paper that I can share later. I can send a link that explains the methodology of using video content and documentary as a data collection mechanism in this kind of research. So that's what it was done by a PhD student. So he used and he developed this methodology of using videos in documentary as a method. So I'm gonna share with you a clip of this documentary, and if you cannot hear or see it from the screen, I'm gonna close and then I open the original trailer. But let's try this one first.
The hillsides, you just seeing everything moving.
Can you hear and can you see it? I can't see your face, so someone has to say yes or no.
Yes, Monica is working.
Okay, perfect.
Terrible.
We dried it, roasted it, celebrated it. It was a part of who we were. And after a while, you could almost feel more than observe that they were a little fewer.
But who would ever think that our main source of food would disappear?
There's more bad news tonight about our vanishing caribou population.
The loss of a food, a cultural food, is just as high of an importance as language, craft, and art.
It was almost like the caribou was the reason and everything else happened after. People had to be heard.
Okay, so I will invite you all to check it out. It's in this one, InuitVoicesHeard.com. That's the website that was produced as part of this project. And then you can find more about the project itself, the documentary. There's a photo book that was also made from this and the different aspects of the research. So the website alone is already a good source of information dissemination and knowledge sharing. Another example that's part of our core projects is with polar bears. And again, we combine both biological and ecological surveys and analysis with traditional ecological knowledge on polar bears. And here's an example. The last survey was from a survey that was done in 2008, and then we did the last survey in 2017 and 2018. And we produced infographics to share with our partners and to share with our communities. So every product, every project that it's conducted here, and every knowledge that is synthesized is also shared as part of our mandate to share with communities and participants. So in the case of polar bears, recently a new subpopulation of polar bear was documented in Greenland, if I'm not mistaken. So now there are 20 subpopulations of polar bears in the Arctic, and 14 of those are in Canada. Here in Nunatsiavut, we are part of the Dave Strait polar bear subpopulation. And recent numbers are showing that the population is stable to increasing. So we have a healthy population of polar bears here in the area. But polar bears, as you probably know, are also a very important species for people here, not just for food, but for the fur. Polar bear hunt is also a culturally important activity in a way to connect people with the land, and also the selling of the fur, which now the market is not as it was 20, 30 years ago, so it's not as profitable. But it's also another way to increment livelihoods for people, for communities here. We do have a limit of polar bears that can be harvested in the area, and that's 13 tags. 13 polar bears can be hunted every year. Usually that number is not reached, but then that's the limit of polar bears that can be killed and hunted every year in Nunatsiavut. Those numbers change if we go to other parts of the Arctic with different jurisdictions. So we do have, as you will notice, we use a lot of interviews and video making and documentary making as a way not to just collect data, but also to capture more than just what a questionnaire, a survey would capture, or that would be in a report stored somewhere. So almost everything that we do, there is a documentary or a film component that is very strong and part of the work. So I'm going to share with you a couple of videos to exemplify a little bit more of the nature of the work we do when incorporating Inuit knowledge and values and perspectives. So it's not just about getting knowledge on if they can identify if the tracks on the snow are from a female or from a male polar bear, for example, not just the ecological knowledge, but the beliefs and the cultural importance and the whole, it's way more broader in the holistic understanding of those animals in the land for the people today, in the past, and for people in the future. So those videos, I'm using them here in this presentation once, so it's not just me talking, and to really show that we can go way beyond just asking people specific ecological knowledge, and that's why we tend not to even say just ecological knowledge, but it's the indigenous knowledge. So I will try again here 2 different videos, and the first one, I think I will start with the polar bear encounters. So those, let me just back up a little bit here. The polar bear project, it's called Nunatsiavut narratives. And Nunak is a polar bear in Inuktitut, the local language. It started 3 or 4 years ago, and now we are entering to a different phase of this project, expanding to other areas in the Arctic. And a series of a doc series is being produced. So episodes last 5 to 6 minutes, and they are specific to a different aspect of people and polar bear interactions that can be used for communication, education, dissemination, and or to influence somehow decision-making processes. As part of this Nanook narrative initiative, we are also developing a 1-hour online course that is will be launched hopefully end of November, mid of November. And this course will be free for everyone who wants to access. And then the goal of the course is to show people not just our example of how to integrate indigenous knowledge into co-management decision-making, but also to highlight the relationship between Inuit and polar bears here in Eastern Canada. So we have 2 videos here. The first one I'm going to show you is the polar. It's specifically about polar people and polar bear encounters, and I think that's a lot of you will might relate based on your one experience and work of people-wildlife interactions. And the other one, it's an animation combined with interviews that we also developed for education purposes and training. So I will start with the polar bear encounters, and let me see. I hope it can work. Can you see it?
We can see, but no sound yet.
Underground.
Can you hear
Yes,
it
there
now?
is sound. There is sound,
Okay.
Tent now it's too dangerous to be in a tent. The tent would be just torn from the border. That's the number one predator of the north. They won't stop you now. They never used to stop the human.
The bear was pushing the door, trying to get in the cabin, but there was a bunch of guys that pushed against the polar bear.
You never know what could happen to a polar bear and a person when they're too close to each other. Growing up, we outside, we used to walk far, not carrying walk to polar bear, but when I got to be a teenager, we start seeing them.
It has really increased in our region. Let's say we go out hunting on a speedboat in the fall time. Everywhere you look, you're able to see polar bear, old, young, mother with cubs.
That's from here to Killiney, about 150 miles north. I'll just drive along the coast, and I come, and I see 60. So they're a lot, I can tell you. I think they're getting used to interacting with the humans. They're more fearless about the noise. You're a seat, hey. Even with gunshot, sometimes we see polar bear coming towards you. It used to be opposite. Any noise that was made, like they used to run separate. Like when we hunt, we usually kill seals. I guess they're learning that too, like that behavior. Hear a gunshot, menu is ready. The most disturbing for me is the choppers. They're getting the polar bears less fearing humans. With the big noise that's going around them, they're more a bit afraid of that now than encountering with a human. That's why we see more and more polar bear attacks. Yes, I have quite a few close calls with the polar bears. My son and his uncle went caribou hunting. He went over the ridge, and I was at the boat, and I look at the bear following them, and they cannot see us. We had to walk talking, son, there's a polar bear coming on your way. And sure enough, when they looked back, there was a polar bear going right at them. When they locked into a person, they will not stop. So we have to sometimes have to kill them in order to, is it him or us, kind of thing. I was following my parents. They were hunting, so there was other guys that stayed at the cabin too. There was a bunch of caribou meat outside. The bear was pushing the door, trying to get in the cabin. So there was a bunch of guys that pushed against the polar bear. And luckily there was many people that pushed. We had no rifle inside in the cabin. The polar bear luckily went towards the caribou meat, and one of the guys was able to reach the rifle, and polar bear started coming back running, and luckily was shot. If we were only like 3 of us in the cabin, me and my parents, I'm pretty sure we would have been attacked. One polar bear approaching me in a boat, diving a little bit, diving a bit, hiding the nose and very small eyes. Had to do like warning shot beside me. No fear, they keep coming. So I had to kill it in the water. My father's house is in the corner of the town over there, the blue house. The polar bear came into town and got too curious, and it was just beside my father's house, too close, where children are playing outside. For that main reason, the people from here decided to shoot it right away before it comes back again.
Okay, let me go back to this one. Yeah, the other one is about 5 minutes too. I'm just cautious about the time now. I just show you a brief clip of this animation. So this video was made with intent, as I said, of communication and education and blending those different perspectives and how we can use that. So this is about bear safety.
Within the last 20 years, or even probably more, the lack of oysters, particularly with polar bears, bears are coming more and more to the land, and that's where most people and bears have encounters. You have more people traveling on the land, easier access with, bigger, faster snowmobiles, boats, ATVs. With the increase of human activity and bear activity, you can have a negative encounter with bears almost every year. There's people that's either had property destroyed or personally been, harmed, attacked, mauled, or even killed with bears. Inuit elders have identified three behaviors of bears. We have a curious bear, which is basically the bear is just, looking at us and knows that we're there, smelling the air, standing on its hind legs for a better look at us. Oftentimes, just the scent of the human is enough to drive them away. If a curious bear is, showing interest into you, you don't need to shoot a bear at 300 meters away. You got other means and methods of deterring the bear through pyrotechs or noisemakers and lots of aids or, dogs and snowmobiles and ATVs. Always keep your eye on the threat and just move back slowly from where the threat is to giving the animal a lot to resist. Now, if a bear shows you aggression, that's a sign that, it's for animal. If they focus right on it, it's very easy to see. They're almost like they have tunnel vision. They're focused right on what they're doing. They start to charge towards you, coming at a full speed. Your head is up, there's often, body fluid coming out of their mouth, making lots of noise. Their mouths are open. This can happen so fast. It can go from you're observing an animal that's 400, 500, 300 meters away, and all of a sudden they can travel from 300 meters to 100 meters within seconds. So don't run away. You'll never outrun a bear. You want to be able to move back before they come into a threatening or an intimidating posture or actions. The other one, the third one, is the threatened bear. They feel that if they have a meal there on the snow, you avoid going to where a kill site is. You approach that, they look at you as a threat to take their meal. They can often do a buck charge. They'll come charging towards us, stop. Hopefully they'll stop. Sometimes they don't always do. They'll keep coming. Moms with babies in particular, the babies will get behind their moms or get underneath their bellies, and mom will swing its head from side to side. And I've seen it on many occasions where bears are moving and they're migrating from one area to the other, and they follow the easiest route, and that's through a valley, a natural contour in the land. That's very important that you not get yourself boxed in and have an escape route for you or the animal to do it. They don't like to be surprised. So, make noise, let the animals know where you're to by, it's about human safety. That's your first and foremost priority, but followed by a very, very second post of bear protection or bear safety. We don't want to have to destroy an animal if we don't have to. You never underestimate the powers of these animals and what they can do and how they can, in a split second, change a person's life forever, and go down the line, enjoy animals and nature and their natural habitat, enjoy it, share it with your family and your friends and guests that will come to want to see these things and we're blessed with seeing, but do it with respect. Treat the animals with respect, and everybody is happy at the end of the day.
Okay. Yeah, so here you can see very clearly the use, and as Derek mentioned at the beginning, of the Inuit elders' knowledge on the different behaviors of bears and how to approach, not to approach bear, or what to do if you see a bear in terms of the reaction. Again, this is just things that you should do or shouldn't do, but it's different when you see a bear on the wild. But another aspect that I think it's important from this interview is he never says that there is conflict with bears. He mentioned there is the negative aspect of an encounter, for example, when there's a death from one of the sides, and the different ways that people can relate to polar bears and their environment and the importance of that relationship. Nobody wants to kill a bear just in a situation like that, but sometimes they have to. And I think this is all in our context of human-wildlife interactions here, more specifically. It shows also all the different perspectives of seeing encounters and seeing interactions. So the biases and the positionality, as we mentioned before, that we sometimes bring, or a researcher will bring when analyzing a situation, or a decision maker will bring when analyzing the situation. Sometimes it's very different from the perspective of the people that actually live and share the land with those animals. It's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, it's just how things are. And in terms of the conflict specifically with the bears here, as they said, like they're seeing more and more bears and encounters, and that information together with the survey, the ecological survey that is done, and we've seen that yes, the polar bear population, it is stable and increasing. People are seeing more. They're expressing a little bit more concern in terms of in certain areas bears are getting too close to the communities. So there's discussion now on allocation of harvesting, specifically for situations of human polar bear conflict. And then the word conflict is used to describe this kind of situation where for self-defense you have to kill a bear. So those are examples of situations and information that are coming to us, and then our role here in the Secretary is to analyze everything and make a recommendation for the Wildlife Co-Management Board, and then they will make recommendations or to the minister on how to handle and manage the situation, and if there will be allocations specifically for harvesting of bears in the case of conflict. So let's continue because we don't have much time left. So I invite you to check out the website for this project, nanuknarratives.com, and sign up for the newsletter, and then get notified when our online course will be launched later in the fall, so you can all participate and learn more about polar bears in the area here. Another project, this is more from the social science for our education and stewardship department. I didn't mention, but we do have an Inuit knowledge and human dimensions department here, and an education and stewardship department, and then the wildlife and the fisheries department. So this project here, it's called IWell, and it's about, it's working with youth between the ages of 10 and 20 on Inuit well-being and learning from the land. So creating a space for youth to interact with elders and knowledge holders and different activities that are land-based activities in a way to enhance cultural continuity, learning and exchanging knowledge between across generations, and also creating a space for youth to disconnect from their laptops and their phones and spend more time on the land. So in this picture here, it was a caribou hunt that was organized for 3 or 4 days last winter, and a group of youth went on this hunt, and they didn't find any caribou, but it was a really eye-opening because climate change is happening, as you all know. So the snow here is also being impacted. There wasn't enough snow on the ground last winter, so it was really dangerous to be on this a snowmobile with the youth, and they couldn't track the caribou. So now we are in the process of reevaluating certain activities that we do with communities in this department in the winter because of the snow and how the environment is changing, that it's allowing or not allowing us to do certain work and certain projects that we usually would do at this time of the year. So this is another picture of that caribou hunt activity, and just showing like you go out in the land and we spend a day there, you camp, and then you have provided space for mental health and well-being as well.
Monica,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if you can see my message, but if you could wrap up in a couple of minutes so that we have time to discuss.
I almost at the end. I'm just gonna go quickly then through some of our other areas, more on the fishery side. So we have a whole a camp that's based on the northern part to monitor char. So we are doing the monitoring of char coming down the river, and also at the same time doing work with the communities on their knowledge and use of char and salmon in the area. As part of this, and as part of the education and stewardship, bringing kids and youth on fishing expeditions to reactivate that contact with, again, with the land and learn about on traditional knowledge and Inuit knowledge on certain places where the fish would be, or how to read the land and the signs of the environment when you're out there. So promoting this space of a knowledge exchange and use of the natural resources. Another work that we do, it's the monitoring of moose population, and we are starting now an Inuit knowledge hub, which is to monitor Inuit knowledge on different species, and moose is one of them. Moose and black bears, as I mentioned, this is becoming an issue. So now we are starting to we're starting by listening to communities and listening to people and their perspectives of black bears and where they are seen, and then we're going to bring biologists into the field to do their work as well. So with that, I close my talk and I open for questions and comments.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Monica. It's very rarely we have this kind of inside experience, isn't it, from a position of directorship and this whole perspective from management and working in collaboration with local people. So I would like to open the floor to questions and also your own experiences, how they compare, how different they might be. And we would like to hear from you. Please unmute yourself or raise your hand. Yeah, we've got some. Thank you very much. One thing, if I may raise something, Monica. One thing that I found very strong is the empowering of community narratives, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It is such, but it starts from a completely different perspective. The fact that they is a co-management of the land, was created by the indigenous and people who live there, and it's more like any research or conservation work is serving the community. So the perspective is so different. When we talk about predators, in different countries, and you worked in Brazil, and we have colleagues working in Asia, in India, in Africa, it's like you really don't, it's like you don't want to hear what people have to say about predation, isn't it? About the predation experience. And as a conservation, if you are coming somewhere with a conservation project, it's like it's very often disempowers local people from that narrative. And I'm sure people here have different perspectives on that, and I'd like to hear your experiences on it. It just feels very different. What is, you worked in different contexts and around the globe. How is that?
I think the main aspect, as you said, is exactly because it emerged from the communities. It's not the other way around. And even the starting points of many of those areas that we are working on, it's to understand first the community's perspective, and then be like, okay, we need a biologist, to bring a biologist here to do the work. So with the predators, for instance, now black bears and wolves predating on, there's a concern that they are predating on caribou, which is a very important species for harvesting. So we have to understand, okay, we are hearing that from the communities and they are raising the issue. So like, okay, we need to direct some efforts to understand predator-prey dynamics here in this area. So we don't bring our ideas for what we would like to see, even though we see there, you know, if there is a certain species that we think it would be important to study or to understand, we don't just bring that into the table. We just listen to what people have to say in terms of, there's a problem here. We need to figure it out. We need to understand this. We need to change the how things are done in terms of decision making, and then we come and do the work. So it's very different from when we're just calling, or there is an idea, someone has an idea of a project because, you know, it's more like because they want to, then instead of because they are called to. So in our case here, we are called to do the work. So we are called to, we exist because of that. We were created to attend the needs and follow the mandate of the agreement. So it's not that one is good or better than the other way. It's just the other side of the coin. We started from the community, not the other way around.
Absolutely. We have a question just before we go to Shalu. I think it's so applicable. Everything that you're saying is applicable to conservation, translocation, to the projects that go to the places, because we have to be able to go to the places, but still have the listening and the collaboration. So we are going to the place, but we still need to stop and then listen and then work together. Shalu, would you like to unmute yourself and please come in?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you, Monica. That was a wonderful presentation. I really like the videos. I mean, I love polar bears. So my question here is, as you said in your presentation that you have a stable population of polar bears, right? And then you have a hunting season. But with the climate change affecting the population of bears, polar bears, I mean, I want to know the strategy for conserving the bears. I mean, what is the strategy here?
So all we are doing here is we make the recommendations for harvesting of bears, for bear hunting in the area, and monitoring the population as well. So we acknowledge that yes, there are some changes happening because of climate change, and even where bears are going, they're seeing more bears in certain communities now because there's less ice, so they're spending more time on land to hunt. With that, we have more interactions, but the work we are doing, it's specifically about that. There is no, like, the population is not declining. There are lots of bears here, so that's not a big issue in this area. But it's all, it's known and people know and people see it and they talk all the time that yes, there are, you know, you mentioned climate change. That climate change is really changing the way not just bears but other animals are using the land and how people are using the land and this things that they're seeing. For example, the area is becoming way more greener now in the northern part than it used to be. There are grass, and this is above the tree line. So now they're seeing grass and shrub just growing, something that it didn't happen. It wasn't like that 50 years ago. So there's a lot of known changes that are in fact happening.
Okay, okay. And I also want to know, like, just like how we have human bear conflict, right? Do we have that scenario in your area? Like direct interaction of conflict, attacking people. Bears
For bear
attacking people.
attacking people. It happens sometimes. Polar bears are rare when they attack people, but they do get into cabins. They try to open the door, you know, get into houses sometimes, or getting too close to certain areas where we have houses and stuff. But there's not many cases of physical attack of bears on people. There was one, unfortunately, but this is outside the area here. It's on the Quebec side. That was last month. A guy who was working in a station up in the north, he was attacked by 2 polar bears, and unfortunately he lost his life, and the polar bear also lost his life. But we don't have, it's very rare in general, polar bears attacking people, but they do get really close to people and people's houses.
Right. Okay, yeah. Thank you for the information.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for the question, Shalu. Do we have any other observations and questions? We still have some time. Yes, please, Paul.
So I agree, and I like what you said about listening and the idea of the conservation have to start from the community itself. But I want to bring up some abstract concept like carbon credit. Like if we want to conserve a land and we want to have free, prior, informed consent, and we want to engage the community, but the community don't readily have education to understand what carbon credit is. And for me, education, and for a lot of people working with the indigenous communities, right, education becomes like a dirty word. It's almost like indoctrination. So how do we balance like needing to get consent from the local community, but also not educate them, like coming from almost like a condescending place to want to educate the local community, but at the same time, we also wish they could understand complex issues like human-wildlife conflict, climate change, or carbon credits, so we can advocate for them, their rights with the government or corporations, and protect their cultures and their lands. And the animals that share the habitats with the, yeah. Do that make sense?
I think so. I would try to comment on that, but you raised you touched on something that I didn't talk about, but I think it's very important, the consent and the ethics of doing this kind of work. So one thing that for anyone doing any work in the area in Nunatsiavut, it has to go through an ethics process and getting ethics clearance and approval from the government. So the Nunatsiavut government has a research department, and everyone who works in the area, including us, we have to send we have to apply for permits to work in the communities and work with people there, especially when you do interviews. So there's a whole other protocol of ensuring that people are aware and then consent to the work, and they have ownership of the information as well. So all they because it's knowledge, right? So it's not just data. So they have ownership and access to everything that's produced. So that's one aspect. The other one, I agree 100% with you with the education. I don't even like to say it like we go there to educate people, right? Because it feels like really top down. And so the work we do here through the education and stewardship department, it's mainly in schools with kids. So there is another project that I didn't talk about, but there's a curriculum that was designed, activities to be incorporated to the school curriculum in the area. And this is the last year of the development of this curriculum, and it's all about human polar bear interactions from all aspects. So this year they're going to be workshopping with teachers to test those educational kits that will be distributed in the schools, and then working with the kids. So that's more like how the education component comes into play. And when we like the human wildlife interaction, and you mentioned educate people in human wildlife interaction, it's not a problem, and it's not something that there is how should I say it? It's not, sometimes we see from outside, especially working in this area of trying to deal with human life interactions and conflict. It's like there's a problem. We have to go there and fix it or solve it or mitigate it. But no, it's not the case. It's like, yes, there are interactions because they've been interacting their whole life. They're just sharing the space. They live on the same space, and people use polar bears, and there is a connection with them, as the same with other species. So the education is more with the younger generations to understand and to go back to continuing the connection that they have as a culture with certain animals like the polar bear, and harvesting in a sustainable way. And polar bears are not really an issue for over harvesting, but sometimes, let's say caribou, for example, they're over harvested. So like this kind of education component, in using only what's needed from an animal, for example, or hunting, not wasting food, not wasting animal parts, this other aspect. But I agree 100% with you. It's that they're not coming from like, we're gonna come here and tell you how things should be done or how you should behave, or no, there's nothing like that. No, it's usually what is done is, as Adriana mentioned before, it's highlighting the narratives and the perspectives from the communities, and that they are using, they are the ones talking and sharing how to live with those animals on the same land.
Cole, would you like to, yeah, do you have any comments?
The questions is more about how do we, I guess when you put it like there's no problem, then there's no need for a solution. But whenever there's a problem and we want to introduce a possible solution for coexistence, and we can't just wait for the communities to reach out to us. How do we approach them without using education or whatever?
How do you approach them? Well, the first step I would say is to to start a conversation and ask if their perspectives on that, let's call, issue, right? One example that I can give you is black bears here. one was just killed a few days ago because he was just hanging out by the river for 2 weeks, but people don't care. They're fine. There's no, like, from the perspective of most of the people, they are not a problem, even though they will be like sometimes in a trail so nobody can go and walk. But because it can be a threat, they had to, the decision was made to shoot the bear. So it can be a problem for, depending on the perspective or the group you are dealing with, they will see as a problem or not, or not as a problem, right? But the first step is to understand their perspectives and how they would even define that situation. Because, you know, we are used to our concepts and defining everything based on our concepts that we read in papers and books, but the conflict, for example, or coexistence that you just mentioned, those two, maybe you understand in one way, I understand in another way, and a person who's out in a boat with a polar bear around understands in another way, or the one that goes out hunting, right? So even like the use of the concepts can be very biased. So I think it's more understanding the situation from the ground level community's perspective, without using those words that already define a situation, but trying to understand if they see it as, you know, if something should be done or managed. Because yes, like the black bears, we know that something's going on. We don't understand what exactly. Is that a problem that it has to be solved? What should be done? So we have, next year, we're going to go there, and then we're going to, you know, start a conversation and get a better understanding from the people's perspective, what's happening. We hear more and more people talking about black bears, and then we move on to another phase of, is there something to be fixed or what?
I think this is a very important, very interesting issue called that you raised, because I work with education for sustainability as well. And we have all these international frameworks which try and address these enormous problems of climate change and biodiversity loss. And the difficulty for us working in the field is conciliating the two, the international frameworks with very wide strokes and the local context. And local context has always it is particular. It has to do with so many variables that you don't find in other parts of the world. So the example from that Monica has been talking about today is fantastic because it initiates with the local people, and they are kind of running the show and indicating it is a problem for us here, and we'd like to conserve it this way. How can we do it and stuff? And when we start with the wide paintbrush and go with all these different ideas into a locality to apply the carbon credits or to look for funding to address something that's local, it's that conflict, isn't it, between these very large ideas that local people might not be connected to and the local context. So it is such a big subject area to be discussing, and we run out of time. I just shared the publication that our group, we have been working on trying to write guidance, which is, again, is a difficult thing because we work worldwide and we want to be able to help people to think about these issues locally. But if you haven't seen it yet, we talk a lot about working with communities and how you listen, how you include, and how you respect and reflect, and so on and so forth. So the guidelines that we published are here. We're working, as I said at the beginning, on a companion to the IUCN Conservation Translocations Guidelines, focusing on human dimensions. And all these issues we're trying to feed into what we are writing. It's terrible because there are so many things to discuss, isn't it? Anyway.
Yes.
I'm gonna thank everyone for taking part, for being here. We're going to be sharing Monica's resources and the recording. And if you'd like to keep receiving information from our group, please let me know, and we'll let you know of future discussions. And I'll ask Monica for the last thoughts for the
Sure.
session to close it, please.
Yes, well, thank you everyone for participating. I guess to finalize it, let's keep our ears open and listen to people and be humble when in the field interacting with communities that are not our own, and really be humble in our understanding that they know about the land and their interactions with the animals way more than we'll ever do. So with that, good luck on your work and efforts and adventures, and thank you for joining us.
I've just added my email address if people want to get in touch. And again, thank you very much, Monica, for this wonderful session. And thanks, everyone. Okay. We can stop recording. Mônica, espera pouquinho aí, se puder.
Tô aqui.
Oh, you're gonna go to the Nigerian dance? No, I tried to go outside still full position. Yeah, I know. Let's go. I'm gonna try lying down for a bit now. I'm gonna try lying down for a bit. Okay.
Deixa eu ver. Mais
Foi.
Acho que pronto, né?
Acho que tá gravando aí.
Ah, não parei. Stop.
Não.